All right, so we've gone downstairs now so you can see the other system in the house. So we were up in the home theater where the equipment rack is. As I said, everything is remotely located in terms of the receiver, power amps, power conditioning, network system, whatever. All of that is not located here. As you can see behind me, and as I've mentioned before, we went with a very minimalist look. So this is it's really, I think, like seven inches deep or something like that. It was made with, I believe, 2x6s maybe attached to the wall. My dog's going nuts outside. And then there's a marble facing, I think it's 3/4 inch marble. And this is real marble. So this is white Carrara marble. We actually, sounds fancier than it is. We imported this directly from Italy. Really what happened was we needed 2 very clean sheets because this is very expensive. Normally this would have been done and pieced together from 3 sheets. And so we didn't want to do that. It would have been very expensive to piece together 3 sheets. And so the guy that we were working with said he could find 2 clean sheets. You can kind of special order that of the size we need. And that gives you the ability to do this whole thing, saves us some money. So we did that. They actually had to import it. We had to wait forever because we did this in the midst of like supply chain issues to get it. They got it in, came out gorgeous. I really like it. It's book matched. Biggest negative of the book matching is you can't actually see it anymore now that the TV's kind of in the way. But I went ahead and mounted into the marble the speakers. So we had that guy who did the installation cut it, just like they can cut countertops and put all sorts of detailed cuts in through CNC. He came in, templated the whole system, went back to his shop. When the marble came in, he processed the marble, cut it into the pieces it needed to be able to do the book match shape, and then cut the holes in here. There was some rough, I would call that rough cutting actually, I should say, and then there was some on-site cutting needed to be done because he didn't want to make it too big, so he made it too small. And then he just kind of sanded out the edges a little bit to make it all fit. We had to remove extra drywall because these speakers wouldn't clamp into a wall that thick. I mean, that would have been 1/2 inch drywall plus 3/4 inch. So we would have been in like 1 1/4 inch, and this couldn't handle that. I think that maxed out at like 1 inch. So anyway, we put these in. These are the Definitive Technology 6.5 LCRs. I think it's DI 6.5 LCR, and it has 2 6.5 inch drivers. It's got a tweeter. The tweeter is aimable. I have them aimed towards the couch. Did some actual measurements on this, and I'll try to show that later. Aiming them made a small difference in getting the high frequencies up a little bit. These are roughly slightly above ear level, and then the center channel is really high. And let me explain why I did that. So this is a Sony 77-inch OLED TV. It's the 80 series one from the generation when we moved in. If you look down here, and you can't see all that well, there's a fireplace below it. It's a fake fireplace, but linear fireplace. And between the fireplace and the TV wasn't enough space for these speakers. Had I done this, and had we kind of worked it all out that way, what would have happened is I would have had to actually raise up the TV. So this TV is already technically too high. I know a lot of people like their TVs too high, but what you're supposed to do is place the TV such that your eye line is somewhere between the midpoint and the bottom third point. That's it. When you're sitting comfortably like this, looking straight ahead, your eyes are sitting somewhere between here and here. You can't see it, but if you're sitting on my couch, that midpoint actually would have been closer to the bottom of the TV. And the third point is actually just, a little bit up from this. So this is close to where it's supposed to be to hit the bottom third. But I would say when you're sitting, eye line actually hits in between the bottom of the TV and the bottom third point. And that's a little high. It makes it a little uncomfortable to watch potentially. As I said, most people have the opposite. It's actually way high. Opposite's the wrong word. It's way high, and I find that very uncomfortable to watch, but people don't care. So when I'm criticizing my setup, keep in mind, this is still much more correct than most. So I had a decision to make. And the decision was, given how we use the system, especially the casual nature of it, place the center channel up there instead of down here. The other nice advantage of the center channel being up there is that when I'm in the kitchen, which is attached to this, or standing up and walking around, I have a better, we'll call it ear of sight instead of line of sight to the speakers, and so it sounds better. It does create a greater angle error between the left-right speakers and the ceiling speakers. Sorry, not ceiling speakers, the upper center channel there. One of the neat things I could have done, but it really requires sophisticated processing to make work well, would have been a dual center approach. You can make that work, you just have to use special DSP. Otherwise, it tends to make things worse rather than better. The new Sony receiver that I mentioned I may be changing in actually has two cool features. One of them is it can raise, you can have the center channel down here and it can use this to raise it, or you can do dual centers. I do have extra wire in the wall. Everything was run as 14.4. And so there's 14.4 here, here, and here. So I could conceivably attach a center channel from Definitive Technology to the bottom of the TV. I could make that the standard center channel. I can make this the lifting center channel that helps lift the image up and run that all up the Sony and actually get a better image that places it here. But I have to say, when I'm sitting in the couch and I'm watching, you don't really notice this. It doesn't sound like it's coming from above the TV unless you're like looking right at it and kind of getting thrown off. So anyway, that's how I did this setup. The left and the right, I'm just gonna note, are placed pretty wide. That gives them the correct angle for music listening and is a little wide, but in line with the widest. So 30 degrees to either side would be the widest for Dolby. 45 degrees is common for stereo listening. This came in at around, I believe it's 35 degrees. So the splay between these relative to the listening position is a little wide for Dolby. Obviously it looks very wide for the TV, but keep in mind for this distance, the size of the screen should actually be bigger. So it isn't really wide when you consider that the screen's too small. Thing is, 77-inch was the most I could afford and the most my wife was gonna let me stick in here. 80-inch, I think was the next size up, something like that. Would have been quite a bit more money. Wasn't a lot bigger, maybe it was 84 inches, whatever. 100 inches is actually about the right size for the viewing distance for this, but that would have been massive. It would have dominated the wall and it would have cost a fortune. So, you know, maybe someday, but we're not there yet. This is a 5.1.2 system. There's 2 overhead speakers. I did that for simplicity. This is a casual system. It's all DefTech speakers, so there's 8-inch coaxials in the ceiling. It's the DI, I believe it's 8.5R maybe. I'll correct that if I have that wrong in the video. There are 2 of the reference subwoofers in the back wall. That was a convenience issue. This is a concrete wall in the front, and there was no place to put them here, so I had to put them in a back wall. The side wall is concrete as well, and the other side of the house is kitchen, so I can't stick them over there. The back has DI 6.5 LCRs as well. So it's a full 6.5 LCR, fully matched system all around. And I did that on purpose to get the best timbre matching for the system. It's got more than enough output for casual listening for a family room system. You can turn it up, it shakes the room, it's got decent bass. It does not sound anywhere near as good as my reference system upstairs as you would expect because it's much cheaper. These speakers are, I believe, $5.99 a piece, and I think for $5.99 a piece, they're actually quite good. I'm impressed. I have a bunch of in-wall in-sync speakers throughout the house from various companies, and for the money at least, I think these are pretty good. Totally recommend them. So the DefTech system, I think, is really a good value. I really like how hidden it is. I've got the grill right here that I took off, and you can see that it's magnetically attached. It's got a little frame. You know, I've had some other dealers come over, and reps, I should say, and look at this and say, oh, our brands don't have those. I actually like this. I like the little frame. I think it looks nice, and I like the micro-perf grill they did. They're a little tricky to paint. That would be kind of the negative. I screwed up 2 of them, and I need to replace those at some point because we painted them with latex. A couple things. One, when you paint grills, remove that fabric backing. It's really critical. Even if they say not to, do it anyway. 2, don't paint with latex. Even if it says you can, you cannot. We watered it down. We sprayed it with a very expensive top-of-the-line paint gun with a very experienced painter who did a decent job everywhere else, and we screwed them up royally. So I just say don't listen to the instructions and listen to some experience on this one. Everybody I talked to in the integration world said the same thing. Spray paint's about all it'll work. It's got a finer mist to it, and as long as you remove that fabric backing, it doesn't clog up the holes. So there's the painting, the system. This whole thing is controlled by Control4 as well. We actually have the Neo remote, and if I could find it quickly, I'd show you, but it's stuck around somewhere. My kids take it all the time. The Neo remote's a little tricky. I'm just gonna say I love the look and feel of the remote. I love the concept and the minimalism of it. It disconnects from my network all the time. I've heard some people say that's a known problem and that there's no fix. I've heard other people say that they don't have that problem and have no idea why it does it for me. I don't know the answer to that. My guess would be that it may be a bad interaction between the Control4's software and the way it's been set up to handle the Wi-Fi connection and the Wi-Fi system I have, which is Netgear Pro. It's possible that the Netgear Pro system is just suboptimal for the way they've set it up. Supposedly, had I done Arachnus access points everywhere in the house and instead of what I did, that this thing might not disconnect so much. Convenient. I have to say, control for it, that you might have developed a system that works best only with the equipment you guys own. But that seems to be where we're at with that. Otherwise, I like the control for system. It works well. It lets me automate everything, keep it very integrated into one system. I like the remote well enough. Kids have an easy time using it. Both the 2-year-old and the 8-year-old basically can turn the TV on if they want to. Navigate to YouTube, Netflix, whatever. So this system has been great. I've actually been very, very happy with it. As I mentioned, I'm just going to stay here and kind of finish this little house review tour. Upstairs is the episode 12 channel amp that does 6 zones. And as I mentioned, we're using 3 of those zones to power different parts of the house. 3 of them are being temporarily used for surround speakers. So in the bedroom is a set of speakers, outdoors is a set of speakers, and then the master bathroom is a set of speakers. And that is what those 3 zones are being powered by. And then the control for system acts as the source and the controller. And then I use AirPlay, which is one of the things that it has as an option, primarily as the music source going to it. It's not my favorite AirPlay system. It's not AirPlay 2, which I don't love, and it's a little bit slow and doesn't let you use your phone as the volume control. All the AirPlay 2 devices that I use, like an Apple TV or a Roku or any of the other, actually, like Sonos or any of those, are a lot snappier. They seem to work better. The interface is a little bit better, and you can use the volume control on the side of your phone as the volume control for the system. So to me, that's better, and I really wish that Control 4 would do that. But overall, it's a very robust system. It's very flexible, and it has some built-in apps, I think including Tidal and Qobuz, and I have Tidal going into it, actually, that I can use, and that works okay. I mean, none of the native apps are always better, it seems, than the built-in apps when they get built into somebody else's software. So the Tidal native app is better than the one built into the Control 4 system, but it's absolutely workable as is. And then you get, audio. It's actually got a really good DA converter in it. And so you get audiophile sound throughout all the rest of the speakers. I've been so impressed with this because I'd never had systems like that before, that the outdoor system is getting expanded. Like, I love it. And right now I only have the 2 speakers and a subwoofer. And so I ran lots of extra wires. So I've already got 2 more speakers that are going to go in one of the other lanais. And then I've got some plans, at least, to add subwoofers and some other speakers around the pool so that it's just Party City out there. I just think this is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I will say I wholeheartedly recommend you guys do this in your outdoor space. Especially if you live in an area like I do now in Florida, it just makes sense. So that's the house system. That's kind of the update of the way that we've done that. The home theater is almost done, not quite. So you'll get a more thorough tour of that at some point in the future. But hopefully you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching. Oh, and subscribe to my channel.